Hi, I'm Angel from FleeceFun.com, and today I'm in the All Free Sewing Studios, and today we are talking parts of a machine. You saw these little parts in here. They do something and they're important, and we're going to go over what they are. Now, there are several different types of makes and models of machine, but essentially they all share the same pieces, and while it might look a little bit different on your machine, the same elements are here. The first element to any machine is the spool pin, and this is where the thread goes basically. Sometimes it's upright, sometimes it's on its side, but that's where it starts. And then from there you thread the machine, which is usually going down through what is called tension plates. And tension is very important because that determines how much pressure is on the thread to how much it's tugging on it when it's going through the needle. Goes through the tension plate, then to this thing called a take-up lever, pulls the thread up, goes all the way down, usually goes through a couple other little sections and loops to the needle. Now you need to pay attention to the needle on your machine. You need to replace it regularly. A lot of beginners don't do that and it gets dull and then your machine's going to be fighting with you. And also you need to use the correct needle for your fabric, so pay attention to that. Then we have the foot, and the presser foot is important because you'll use presser feet for different things. Typically you'll be using a one on most of your beginning projects though. Then down here is the throat plate, and the throat plate usually has markings on it for you where you can measure out your seam, so it's important to pay attention to that. And then you have these things called the feed dogs, and what the feed dogs are is they're these like metal clamps with a little bit of texture to them, and they feed the fabric through, okay? And for some projects like embroidery, those will actually need to be dropped down, but for the majority of beginning projects, you're going to want those feed dogs up, helping move the fabric through. So throat plate. Then underneath we have the bobbin. And the bobbin, that's the thread that goes underneath. So that's the thread on the back side of the fabric. And some bobbins, they go in like this. This is a front mount. Some you drop in to the machine. Still the same thing. And you need to be aware of how you need to thread your bobbin properly to go into the machine. And you'll need to check your manual for that because that does vary from different makes and models. Now, the other things that are part of a machine, and any machine, these apply, is over here I have something called the hand wheel, and that's basically your manual crank for the thread. See, I can manually crank the needle up and down using that. And that's important sometimes when you want the needle in a certain position or it's hard to get through fabric, you can hand crank it through. The other things you need to be aware of is your tension, and we talked about those tension plates. This actually, you can adjust your tension. You also need to be able to know where your stitch selection is, and that's over here on this machine, and that can vary from machine to machine. And you need to be able to adjust your stitch width, how wide your zigzag will go, things like that nature. You also want to be able to know where you can place your needle, so you can either have it center or to the sides, and you need to be aware of that for different things. Also, if your machine is set weird, you need to be able to set it back again. And you need to be aware of stitch length, which is different than stitch width. So like if you're basting something or you just need a little bit longer stitch because you're working on thick fabric, you need to be able to lengthen the stitch a bit. The other piece of the machine is the pedal, and basically that's the gas for your machine. Now some machines, they'll have a button that you can also push or a bar, but personally I just like the pedal because it's fun and you know, get to cruise along with it. And you need to get used to the speed of your pedal and how to adjust it so it'll work for you. So just make sure that you have your pedal plugged in and it's in a position where it's comfortable for you to sew. This can vary a little bit from model to model, but somewhere on your machine you'll have a place where you can wind your bobbin, and that's that thing I talked about, that's the underneath thread. And it's important to be able to, of course, add thread to your bobbin. I can't tell you how many times I've been in the middle of a project and of course I'm almost done and the bobbin thread runs out. So you need to know where that is and how to wind it for your machine. Now depending on the model of your machine, it might be able to automatically do the reverse stitch or the locking stitch for the end of a seam, but most machines will have a reverse button or a reverse button lever thing that you can lift up and have it go backwards and forwards to finish off your seams. So it's important that you know exactly where that is because of course you need to be able to finish your seams and lock it in. It's important to know all the parts of your machine because you'll need to be able to tweak and adjust them for different fabrics and projects. Also, if you're like me and you have a 2-year-old who thinks your sewing machine is fascinating and likes to reset stuff all the time, you need to be able to put it back. It's important to understand the basics to your machine so when something goes wrong, you can go and fix it. Because if the tension is off, your thread's going to break and you're going to keep wondering why. You need to be able to adjust it properly. All right, so that's the parts of your machine, and now you know what they do. But I'm curious, does the spool stand up straight on your machine or does it sit on its side? Let us know in the comments below. Also, if you found this information useful, please give us a thumbs up for our hard work. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the videos, and can't wait to show you one of my favorite things.